What's going on, everybody? My name is Johann Castro for UnknownMMA.com, and welcome to this edition of Afterthoughts recapping UFC 242, headlined by the lightweight title unification bout between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Dustin Poirier. A fight that went a little bit unpredictable as to what many people believed it would be. A lot of people thought it was either going to be a mauling, dominating affair by Khabib or a potential, lucky shot slash volume pressure from Dustin Poirier that would lead to him finishing the fight. The fight ended up being a lot more competitive than both of those extremes. It was for my money, Dustin Poirier gave Khabib the toughest test of his career by far. Tougher than Conor McGregor did, obviously tougher than Edson Barboza or Michael Johnson did. Dustin Poirier came very close to winning that fight, both in the second round and in the third round. In the second round, of course, Dustin tagged him on the feet, and then in the third round, caught Khabib in a guillotine that, honestly, had it been anybody else, Poirier probably would have finished that fight. That was a really tight guillotine. He did only have one hip in, so it wasn't completely locked in. But I mean, just the fact that he was able to get Khabib in that position, which no one prior to that had been able to do, that's incredible all in itself. Had that happened to anyone else, Poirier could very well be the lightweight champion of the world right now. But Khabib did what he always does. He came in there, used the forward pressure, took down Poirier, did what he had to do to get the win. And, it was a fight that, while it was competitive, it was a fight that Khabib was in control of from the beginning. It was a fight that really, it was in doubt a few times, but it was a fight that Khabib, showed the world, proved to everyone that he really was the best, that he really is the champion. And I think going forward, as I said in my article earlier the week, it's got to be Tony Ferguson. It's got to be Tony Ferguson. You got to book that fight for a fifth time. These are the two best lightweights in the world. They have been for quite a while. These are two conflicting 12-fight winning streaks. Whose winning streak comes out on top? It's a fight that fans have been clamoring for so long. Obviously, it's been taken from us 4 times already. Let's get it for a 5th time. Please, let's book this fight again. This is a fight that has to happen. I think this would be the most anticipated fight the UFC could put on, if this year, if not early next year. This fight has to happen, No Conor McGregor rematch, not right now. I think that's a stupid decision on the UFC's part. I think Khabib beats him again. There's nothing to prove it otherwise. Give Conor another fight. Let him fight Dustin Poirier, which I'll get to in a second. You got to do Khabib and Tony. These are, it's two unstoppable forces meeting head-to-head in the octagon. Does Khabib's pressure style, his predictability, but his nonstop pressure, does that win the day? Or does Tony Ferguson's volume and unpredictability, does that come out on top? What wins that fight? That's what we need to see. Who is the best lightweight in the world? Let's get that fight, UFC. Let's book it for a 5th time. This is a fight that fans need. This is a fight that you've booked now 4 times. Let's get it for that 5th time. Let's do Khabib and Tony. That's the only fight that makes any sense. Now, as for Dustin Poirier, I think you do a Conor McGregor rematch. His stock rose, in my opinion. He lost this fight to Khabib, but I think he gained a lot of fans in the process. He troubled Khabib on the feet and in the grappling exchanges. I think he's deserved a fight against Conor McGregor, at least a rematch, and make it a title eliminator fight while we're at it. If Conor really wants to fight for the title again, give him the guy who just fought for the title. Give him a guy who just gave Khabib a tougher test than he did. Let Conor McGregor try to get another win against Poirier. Let Poirier try to get that loss back. Let him try to get back into title contention. You could headline a pay-per-view with that fight. It's a fantastic fight. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. Well, not the only thing that makes sense, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it makes the most sense for the UFC. I think you have to do I think Poirier's earned it. I think Conor should not fight for a title right now. I think it's far-fetched to think he fights for a title right now. Besides, if he loses to Khabib again, I think it completely diminishes his star power. He's no longer that big draw like he once was. So give him that fight with Poirier. Let him reestablish himself as a contender. And then we'll see where we go from there. But Poirier, 100% his stock goes up from that fight. I think he gave Khabib the toughest test of his career. And I wouldn't be mad. One more fight, one more win, I think he gets back into title contention. Moving on down the card, Edson Barboza and Paul Felder fought in the co-main event. Entertaining fight. There wasn't a fight of the night given out. If there was one, I would have given it to that. Went about the way I anticipated it to. I thought Felder would win the fight. I thought he was going to finish the fight. I just think Barboza really, he's not at that level like he once was. He's still a talented guy, don't get me wrong. His kicks are among the best in the game, if not the best in the game. But it seems like whenever he fights these high-level guys, he struggles against them. He can't do it. He can't get the job done. You know, he's lost to all the top guys: Tony, Khabib, Kevin Lee, Justin Gaethje, now Paul Felder. I think if you're Barboza right now, you have to go with up-and-comers, prospects who are rising. Maybe match him up with Islam Makhachev. Maybe match him up with Gregor Gillespie. Maybe match him up with Hernandez, although I think that'd be a little bit too soon for Hernandez. There's a lot of directions they could go with Barboza. I think right now, though, he's in a precarious spot. He's kind of fallen off. He's now a mid-level guy. He's a guy you could put on cards, juice him up a little bit, get him a little bit more exciting. But he's not a guy who's going to be fighting for a title probably ever. But he's certainly a talented guy. Keep him around. Let the prospects test themselves against him, and if they get past him, then they become contenders. He's a gatekeeper, basically. Not a title gatekeeper, but a ranking gatekeeper, a contendership gatekeeper. Now, as for Paul Felder, he's also in an interesting spot because Justin Gaethje and Cerrone, of course, they're fighting this weekend, and the winner of that fight very likely jumps into title contention. So maybe the loser of that fight, but that's almost not really fair to Felder. You could give him the winner of Iaquinta and Dan Hooker, who are fighting in Melbourne in October. You could maybe give him Conor McGregor. I think that'd be way too much too soon for him, but that's a possibility. Felder's earned that shot against those top level guys, and he's now in a position where he's about 2 or 3 wins away from that title opportunity. And it was an impressive win for him. He was able to get that loss back against Barboza. And I think when we look at Paul Felder going forward, we're going to see him matched in one of those fights against one of those top 7 or 8 ranked guys. And we're going to close this video out talking about a couple of prospects who caught my eye. So first off, we're going to talk about Ottman AZAITAR. Now, if you only watch the UFC or you only watch North American MMA, you're probably not too familiar with Ottman AZAITAR. Now, he was the Brave lightweight champion. Brave is one of the bigger promotions outside of the continental United States. It's probably not as big as one. It probably isn't even as big as Ryzen, but it's one of those big ones. It's really big in the Middle East, and it's really big in that Mediterranean region. And Ottman AZAITAR was the lightweight champion in that promotion. So he definitely has a very strong pedigree. Coming into that fight with Pakalen, he was the favorite for a reason. A lot of those Octagon newcomers, their records are padded. They fight a lot of guys that are set up for them so they can make it to the UFC. Not AZAITAR, though. He made it in as the champion. He's one of the bigger prospects to come out of that region in a long time. And he left Teemu Pakalen twitching on the canvas. Now, Pakalen has had struggles in the Octagon, but AZAITAR's he's a legitimate prospect at lightweight. Is he ready for a top 15 guy? No way. Not even close. He still has to win at least 3 or 4 more fights before he gets to that point. But he's a guy to keep your eye on. Maybe give him a contender series guy going forward, because I think he really has a bright future. And then the other one would be Islam Makhachev. And I'm hesitant to call him a prospect because he's ranked, but he fought a tough guy in Davi Hamosh, a guy who's kind of a stylistic problem for him in Davi Hamosh. But he came out, looked good with his striking, won the fight legitimately, and now going forward, who do you give him against? Maybe Barboza, like I just mentioned. Maybe Gregor Gillespie would be an interesting one. Maybe Anthony Pettis. Maybe the loser of Iaquinta Hooker or the loser of Gaethje Cerrone. It'll be interesting to see what they have for him going forward. Makhachev's a bright prospect. He's Khabib's boy. And I think he's going to be a big name in that division going forward. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this edition of Afterthoughts. I'll see you next time. I'm Johann Castro. Peace out, guys.